Chapter 12 of Virata Parva, the assembly in Hastinapura. The spies of Duryodhana had been sent to all the countries to find out the hiding place of the Pandavas. Their search was fruitless. They returned one by one to Hastinapura. Duryodhana was there surrounded by his brothers Radeya, Drona, Bhishma and the Trigarta brothers. The spies said, "My lord, we searched for the Pandavas all over the world. They cannot be found anywhere. We looked for them in all the forests. They were not to be found. We went to Dwaraka and looked there. We could not find them. Nor did the people talk as if they know about the Pandavas. They are not in Panchala either. We have a feeling that they are dead. You can enjoy this world without any rivals." During our tour round the world, we heard a piece of news that is the topic of conversation everywhere. It will interest you. You must remember Kichaka, the commander of the army of the Matsyas. Kichaka had defeated these Trigartas. You remember? Kichaka was killed by some unknown person in the middle of the night. Then they say that it is because of a woman that he met with his death. His brothers, the Upakichakas too, were killed by this same Gandharva, who is said to be the husband of the women. That is the only piece of news we could gather. As for the Pandavas, there is no trace of them. There is no evidence that they are alive. They seem to have vanished from the face of the earth. Duryodhana dismissed them from his presence after rewarding them for their trouble. He pondered for a moment. Then he spoke. "We must try again to find out where they have gone. We realize that the time is very short. In a few days more, the time of their exile will be over and they will come out into the open. We must discover their hiding place. If we do not succeed, they will come and claim their kingdom. We must spend spies who are more efficient. Perhaps they are dead, as the spies say. Then it will be excellent." Drona got up and said, "Do not entertain such vain hopes, Duryodhana. People like Yudhishthira and his brothers cannot die an earthly death. They will be long-lived. Why are you so keen on finding out their hiding place? You sent them to the forest by unfair means. You have enjoyed their wealth by 13 years now. Why do you not wait for the end of the year? When they come back and claim their kingdom, why should you not give it back to them? If you do that, yours will be undying fame." Drona's speech was followed by that of Bhishma. He said, "What the Acharya said is right. The Pandavas cannot be destroyed. They cannot be dead. I know that my advice will not please you or your father. Still, I will speak. What is the use of wasting one's breath by saying 1,000 things? I will sum it up in one sentence. Where there is dharma, there is victory. My child, you are just burning up your energy trying to find out where they are. I will give you a clue. Where Yudhishthira lives, the place will be more fruitful. There will be no place for rude speech or for ire in the land where Yudhishthira lives. The people will be God-fearing. They will all be like Yudhishthira. The rains will be regular there. The land will have an excellent harvest. The land where Yudhishthira dwells. The flowers will smell sweeter for his presence. The fruits will be more juicy and more luscious because of the presence of Yudhishthira. The cows will yield sweeter milk where Yudhishthira dwells. There will always be a festive air in the land where Yudhishthira dwells. So, if you want to find out where the Pandavas are hiding, send out your spies to look for a country which has all the glories that I have mentioned. I have just one more word to say. The words I spoke till now were those of a courtier in the presence of his king. But now, as the grandfather of the young king, I will say few words. Duryodhana, you have ever been dear to me. I have been partial to you even when I knew that you were in the wrong. But now listen to me. The Pandavas have suffered enough. You are a prince. You have a princely nature. You can be very magnanimous if you wish to. Why should you not decide to return to them their kingdom? You are not a young man any more, nor are they. The days of your lusty youth are gone. Why not let the last few years pass in peace? Age, they say, softens the mind of people. Can you not let this feud end with the end of the 13 years? Why do you destroy yourself? Duryodhana did not like his talk. He frowned and said, No, grandfather, it can never be. I cannot give up my hatred for the Pandavas. They are my enemies. I will not return their kingdom to them. I will move heaven and earth to find out where they are hiding, and I will send them again to the forest for another 12 years. Kripa spoke. He said, Duryodhana, you have decided to commit suicide. That is evident to all of us. The time has come when the Pandavas will emerge out of their eclipse. You say that you have decided not to give them back their kingdom. You have decided on war, evidently. In which case, the only thing to do is to collect your army even from now. Find out who your friends are. Find out who will support you in the war that is imminent. The angry Pandavas will be like highly venomed serpents. They will not spare you. You must begin your preparations even from now. Time is short. You must meet the many kings personally and ask them to side with you. You must get promises from each of your friends that he will stand by you in your hour of need. You will need all their help and much more too, if I know the Pandavas. Duryodhana saw the logic of Kripa's arguments. He sat silent for a long time. Suddenly he sat up. He sent for the spies who had come just some time back. He made them recount to him in detail the death of Kichaka. They gave him the entire story. Duryodhana dismissed them. After a few moments of thinking, he said, Yes, it must be that. It is known all over the world that there are on the face of this earth 4 people who are greater than Indra himself in strength, in prowess, in bravery, and in the power of physic. They are just 4. I will give you their names. They are Balarama, Bhima, Salya, Shalya, and Kichaka. There is no 5th. These 4 we with each other in all these qualities. They are equally matched in everything. We have arrived at the conclusion that the Pandavas are alive since Bhima is alive. We know that Bhima is alive since it stands to reason that Kichaka was killed by Bhima. No one else could have killed Kichaka. Consider the facts. Just a year back, there comes to the palace of the queen of Matsya a strange woman who talks about her 5 Gandharva husbands. Anyone with a particle of sense would have guessed that this woman, this Sairandri, was Draupadi and no one else. Draupadi is indeed a beautiful woman. There is no denying it. We all know Kichaka. He never could resist a beautiful woman. He has tried to make love to this serpent in human form. She has instigated Bhima to kill Kichaka in the guise of a Gandharva. Nothing else can explain the death of the great Kichaka. Who can kill Kichaka in personal combat without the use of even weapons? It can only be Bhima. And again, think of the way he has been killed. His arms and legs were pushed into the chest and his chin too. Can you not recognize the technique of our beloved cousin there? It is typical of Bhima. He is fond of this technique. This midnight meeting in the dance hall and the secret killing all show that secrecy was the watchword. Secrecy was essential. The women and Bhima were in great fear of being recognized. Hence this dastardly killing of a credulous man in love with a monster. Poor unfortunate Kichaka. Duryodhana spoke again. He said, "Now that I have come to think of it, all the descriptions which our dear grandfather gave of the country where Yudhishthira dwells fit this kingdom of Matsya. I gathered as much from the garrulous spies who spoke about it. We have found out the hiding place of our dear cousins. It is Virata. The Pandavas are living there in disguise. Let us go immediately to the Matsya country and invade it. We will take all their cattle wealth. When the king is in danger, the Pandavas are sure to fight for their friend. We'll smoke them out of their holes where they're hiding like rats. Once they are recognized before the expiry of the 13th year, we will send them back to the forest for another 12 years. Our mind is made up. Please make all preparations for attacking Matsya. This is our suggestion. If there is a better proposal, our ears are bent to listen." Susarma, the king of Trigartas, who had been conferring with Radeya and Dushashana, now spoke. He said, "My lord, I have always had a grievance against this Matsya kingdom. With the help of Kichaka, the Kekeya brothers and Shalva, the Matsya king has been able to defeat me again and again. Now that Kichaka is dead, it will be easy for me to invade the kingdom and capture all the cattle wealth of the king. His kingdom is indeed rich. The king of Virata is now absolutely helpless, since Kichaka, his commander, is dead. I want to join you in your expedition against the Matsya kingdom. I will be of immense help to you in this attempt of yours against Virata." Radeya said, "Shusharma's words are true. If I may make a suggestion, let us divide our combined army into two and invade the enemy's country from two different directions. We can then be sure of victory." Duryodhana listened to the words of both of them. He said, "Dushashana, collect our army. There is very little time. Let our revered grandfather, Kripa, Drona and Ashwatthama lead our army. Radeya and myself with Shakuni will of course be there, and you too with our other brothers. Let Shusharma with his army go there tomorrow and attack them. Let him take away all their cattle. His attack will be on the southern side of Virata. The king, of course, will defend his cattle. The Pandavas will come to his aid. We, the Kauravas, will reach the outskirts of the city. On the day next to the Trigarta attack, we will go and collect the cattle from the northern side of the city. We can be sure of success in both our endeavors: the conquest of the Matsya kingdom, the gain of his cattle wealth, and the unmasking of the Pandavas. So, it is decided that Susharma attacks Virata on the 8th day after the new moon. We attack on the 9th day. Let us now dissolve the council." The council hall emptied itself. The preparations for the invasion into Virata began with feverish haste. Susharma went to his city to collect his army. There was excitement in the heart of everyone. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 13 of Virata Parva, Virata's cows stolen. The cows of Virata were being stolen. The cowherds were not able to protect them. The onslaught was so sudden. Under their very eyes, the cows were being taken away. They could do nothing. They were powerless against the rain of arrows and javelins which were hurled at all of them. They left the cowsheds and ran to the court of the king. They cried out, "My lord, please come to our rescue. Enemies have entered the city and they have taken away all our cows from the sheds." Immediately, the king collected a huge army and began to march in pursuit of the offenders. It was a very big army. Elephants, horses, chariots, and footmen made up the immense army. The king had his brothers to help him. Satanika was one, Madirshva was the second, and Suryadatta was the third. The eldest son of Virata, by name Veera Sannaka, prepared himself to help his father. Dressed in magnificent coats of mail, They all set out to fight with the enemy. When the horses were being brought for the king's chariot, Yudhishthira came to the king and said, Among my several accomplishments, fighting is one. I know how to fight in a chariot or on a horseback. This cook of yours, this Valala, is a very great fighter. Also, these two men who are here to guard your horses and your cows, if you will allow it, we will all prepare ourselves to fight with your enemy and help you. The king was glad to have the help of these men. He called Satanika and said, Get chariots and weapons for these 4 men. Kanka says that they are good fighters. Please hurry up and equip them for the fight. They were all ready. Yudhishthira felt that he was doing the right thing. It was but right that they should repay the kindness of the king, who had given them a home for the last so many months. He also knew that the king would need their help, since the enemy was Susarma, the Trigarta. His fame was great. Yudhishthira had heard about him from Arjuna. The army left the city and proceeded towards the field. The fighting began. The Trigarta brothers were powerful fighters. If Kichaka had been alive, he would have routed their army in no time. But without him, the king found the enemy to be formidable. The field was already strewn with the bodies of the dead soldiers. It was fortunate that the 4 Pandavas had offered to help Virata. They fought like forest fires. Wherever they went, destruction followed in their wake. It was a surprise to Susharma that Virata was offering so much resistance to his onslaught. He was amazed at the excellent way in which the Matsya army was fighting. Yudhishthira had taken charge of the entire army. He arranged it as a phalanx in the shape of an eagle. He occupied the head of the bird. Nakula and Sahadeva were the guards for the wings, and Bhima was at the tail. In this manner, they were able to attack the enemy very effectively. Thousands of soldiers were killed by Yudhishthira. Bhima killed double the number of soldiers. The twins were even more terrible. Nakula's victims were 3 times Yudhishthira's and Sahadeva's 4. Satanika was excited at the excellent help the Pandavas were giving him, and he fought well. Virata was proceeding fast, cutting his way into the arm like a sickle, working its way into a field of corn. He met Susharma. A duel was fought between these two. The battlefield was covered by the dust rising from the ground. The dust almost hid the sun. The entire field became dark because of it. In the sudden darkness that fell on the field, Susharma, the Trigarta, took the Matsya king captive. Virata's bow was broken into 2. He was helpless. When he was thus rendered helpless, Virata was carried bodily out of his chariot and away to the chariot of Susharma. The darkness lifted. The soldiers saw their king captured. There was panic in the ranks. All of them began to run away from the field of battle. Yudhishthira saw what had happened. He told Bhima, "The king has been captured by Susharma. He thinks that the king is helpless. I want you to go to Virata's rescue." Bhima said, "Surely that fool does not imagine that the king is helpless. Of course, I will go and rescue the king." Bhima saw a tree nearby and tried to uproot it. Yudhishthira smiled and said, "Please, Bhima, do not do that. We are not supposed to be recognized. If you use your technique, I am sure Susharma will know who you are. Please fight like others do and do your task. Leave that tree alone." Bhima laughed loudly and said, "You are right, my lord. I will go now." Bhima and his brothers Nakula and Sahadeva ascended their chariots and proceeded fast in the wake of Susharma. Yudhishthira followed them. The 4 of them challenged the Trigarta. Seeing the 4 warriors, Virata fought with new vigor. Lifting up his mace, Virata fought with Susharma in the chariot itself. Before the winking of an eyelid, Bhima had jumped into the chariot of Susharma, the Trigarta. Bhima said, "You have been harassing our king and our cattle. You have wounded the poor innocent people who were guarding the cattle. Without any reason or any provocation, you have waged war on the Matsyas. Why should I not kill you for this?" Bhima defeated him easily. He made Susharma unconscious and he bound him hand and foot. He released Virata. He carried Susharma to his own chariot and brought him before Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira laughed at his victim and told Bhima, "Release the sinner." But Bhima would not do so. He said, "Susharma, if you have any desire to leave, then you must admit in front of all the people, your soldiers and ours, that you are the slave of our king. That is the etiquette of war, and you must follow the rules." Yudhishthira smiled at his brother and said, "No, do not keep on insulting him. He has become a slave already since he has been defeated. Do not humiliate him by asking him to admit it. Release him." Susharma went away from their presence, his face burning with shame. The cattle had been regained. The enemy had been routed. Virata was very pleased with the 4 Pandavas. They spent the night in the tents pitched on the battlefield. Virata could not find words enough to praise Yudhishthira. He said, "I do not know how I am going to repay you for your help. It was you 4 who won the war for me today. I would have been the victim of Susharma but for your timely interference. I will give you all that I own. Tell me how I can repay you." Yudhishthira said, "I am glad we have been of some help to you. What we did was but our duty. You have helped us all these months, and this was just our way of showing our gratitude. You do not have to repay our kindness, as you are pleased to call it. We did nothing remarkable." Virata was not satisfied. He wanted to give them everything he had. He said, "When I think of the valor of Valala, words fail me. I must reward him." Yudhishthira spoke sweet words and asked the king to send messengers to the city announcing the victory of the king. He sent word too to make arrangements for the triumphal entry of the king into the city. They spent a very happy night on the battlefield. They decided to leave for the city after the sun had risen. Krishna Padamastu. Chapter 14 of Virata Parva, Uttarakumara, the young prince. On the day following the Trigarta attack, as per their program, the Kauravas attacked the city from the northern side. They came and captured the cows. The cowherds, taken by surprise, could not defend the cows and rushed to the palace and told their story to the people there. They entered the palace and went right in. There they found no one except the younger son of Virata, by name Bhuminjaya. He was better known as Uttarakumara. The cowherds went to him and told him about the havoc that had been caused by the onslaught of the Kauravas. They said, "Your father has gone to fight the Trigarta army. You must now come to our rescue and help us to recover our cows. Please prepare yourself for the fight. Please do not be late. The enemies have already gone quite some distance. You will have to take over. You will have to overtake them and bring the cows back for us. The king thinks that you are a worthy son of a worthy father. Please come at once. You are engaged in playing the veena. Keep it away from you. Take up the veena called the bow and play sweet music on the strings of the bow and put fear into the hearts of your enemies with your music. Please hurry." The prince was sitting in the midst of the women of the royal household. He spoke now. He said, "Certainly, I will go at once and attack the enemies. I will take up my mighty bow and destroy the entire host of the Kauravas. But just at that moment, I am in a terrible predicament. I have no charioteer fit enough to steer my horses through the ranks of the enemies. You all must know that half the battle is won because of a good charioteer. Without him, there is every chance of my losing the battle. He must be capable person. He must be a capable person. He must be used to drive the chariots of heroes like me. My own charioteer was killed recently in the great war I fought for 28 days and nights together. I asked of you all to get me a good charioteer immediately. I do not care about the enemies. If I had a good charioteer, I can tackle Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Ashwatthama and Radeya single-handed. That does not worry me in the least. I can fight with the Kauravas as Indra fought Virata. I can kill all of them. I will rescue the cows in a moment. Please, who see me fighting, people who see me fighting will say, "Is it Arjuna? There is no one else who can fight so well." I am confident of that. Please arrange for a good charioteer at once. Draupadi was there with the other women. She heard his words. She could not bear to hear the bragging of the prince and his talking of himself as the equal of Arjuna. Arjuna looked at her anger and smiled to himself. He managed to get a few moments alone with her. He said, "I saw your anger and I thank you for it. My sweet queen, go now to Uttara, the princess, and tell her that in his fight with Indra during the burning of the Khandava forest, Arjuna's charioteer was Brihannala. Tell her that she can go and tell her brothers about this. Tell her all about the greatness of Brihannala. Ask her to suggest me a charioteer. Ask her to suggest me as a charioteer for the prince. We will see what he does after that." Draupadi did as she was told. She went to Uttara, the princess, and said, "Your brother says that he cannot fight since he thinks that he has no one good enough to steer his horses. I know of one who can do it for him. Brihannala is a good charioteer. I know that she was the charioteer to Arjuna himself when he fought with Indra during the burning of the Khandava forest. That was why Arjuna was able to defeat Indra. I know about the prowess of Brihannala. If she takes the reins of your brother's horses in her hands, no one can defeat your brother. All the enemies will be defeated. All the Kauravas, Devas and Gandharvas will easily be vanquished. You can be sure of that. Please tell your brother to take Brihannala." The princess was very happy. She rushed to her brother and said, "My dear brother, you can get ready for this fight. I have secured a charioteer for you. Sairendri tells me that our dance teacher Brihannala is a good charioteer. Sairendri says that Arjuna won the fight with Indra with Brihannala as his charioteer. Hurry up, brother, get ready." Uttarakumara summoned Sairendri to his presence. She told him all about Brihannala. She rained praises on her. The prince said, "Brihannala is neither a man nor a woman. How can I, a pure Kshatriya, have a woman for a charioteer? I do not think it is right. It will be beneath my dignity if I have a woman to steer my horses. I will have to give up the idea of fighting." Sairendri said, "You may be right, but in an emergency like this, you must not think too closely on these small matters of etiquette. Your father has gone out to fight. During his absence, this emergency has arisen. It is up to you, a real Kshatriya, to conduct yourself as a worthy son of a worthy father. These small matters should not be remembered at a time like this. Please summon your charioteer Brihannala to your presence. Uttarakumara had to agree to this. His sister was standing by his side, proud of him and his imminent fight with the Kuru army. He saw that he was now considered a hero by all the women. He had to keep up that impression. He asked the princess to summon Brihannala to his presence. Arjuna entered the hall with shy, hesitant steps. It looked as though he was ready to faint with shyness. Uttarakumara said, I hear from Sairandri that you were the charioteer to Arjuna. She says that you are the greatest of all charioteers. Indra's Matali, Dharuka of Krishna, Sumantra of Dasharatha are all insignificant when they are compared with you. That is what Sairandri says. I want you to be my charioteer. I have to go now to fight with the host of the Kaurava army. Please get ready. Arjuna smiled shyly and said, My lord, what do I know of fighting? I can only dance and sing. I am afraid I can do nothing to help you. Uttarakumara said, Sairandri gives me a different version of your accomplishments. This is not the time for modesty. Please get ready. I must leave at once for the battlefield. The princess brought a dress glowing like the sun to be worn by Arjuna. He pretended that he did not know how to put it on. He made such a fool of himself in his attempts to put it on that all the girls in the hall laughed at him. Peal on peal of laughters greeted the ears of all. Finally, in exasperation, the prince came and put the armor on Brihannala with his own hands. That was what Arjuna wanted. He would not dress himself, not when he went out to fight. He told Uttarakumara, I am ready, my lord. I will take you wherever you want to go. You can fight the Kauravas single-handed. I am waiting to see the glorious spectacle. Let us proceed, my lord. They took affectionate farewell of all their companions. The chariot was about to leave the palace gates. The princess of Uttara ran up to the chariot and said, Brihannala, when you come back, do not forget to bring me beautiful silks and garments from the enemies after my brother has defeated them. Arjuna smiled at her and said, I will not forget it, my little princess. I promise to bring you the beautiful silk worn by the Kaurava heroes. They set out in the direction in which the Kauravas had come to carry away the cattle. Shri Krishna Padamastu. Chapter 15 of Virata Parva, Arjuna and the young prince. Uttarakumara said, Please hurry. I am impatient to meet the enemies who have dared to invade our city when my father is away. They thought perhaps that there are no heroes left in Virata. I will show them. They proceeded towards the enemy camp. Arjuna was driving fast in the direction of the outskirts of the city where the burning grounds were situated. He was smiling to himself all the while. They had gone quite some distance when there came to their ears a great noise, like that of the ocean on a night when the moon is full. Uttarakumara heard it and said, Brihannale, what is that noise? Arjuna said, My lord, it is the noise from the Kaurava army, the army which you are to meet and vanquish in a few moments more. The chariot had gone a few yards nearer now. Uttarakumara could now see the army. His eyes were wide with amazement. He just looked at it and said nothing. He was struck dumb. His tongue had gone dry, and he felt as though he would choke. Arjuna continued as if nothing had happened. He said, I have brought you to the spot from where you can see the Kaurava army arrayed just in front of you. Look, my lord, there on the white horse is seated Duryodhana, the Kaurava monarch. See how grand he looks. By his side you can see Dushasana, his dear brother. He is riding a grey horse. Can you see someone approach him? He is riding a beautiful brown horse. Can you see his noble, handsome face? Can you see his wide, beautiful chest? That is Radheya, the dearest friend of Duryodhana. He is the greatest archer on the side of the Kauravas. The king Duryodhana thinks that Arjuna is as good as dead, since his Radheya has sworn to kill him in the war that is to be fought very soon. Look in the other direction. Can you see the morning sun caught in a noose of gems set in a coronet? The coronet is worn by Bhishma, the great veteran. He is the uncrowned king of all this Kuru land. He renounced his claim to the throne. If it had not been for that, the history of the house of Kurus would have been quite different. By his side stands Drona, the preceptor of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Near him stands Ashwatthama, his son. You can even see from here the jewel gleaming on his forehead. He is greater than even Arjuna. You can now be the first person to fight with all of them single-handed. Come, let us proceed further quickly towards the field of battle. Uttarakumara took one look at the army. His nerves failed him. His knees began to tremble. His bow was wet with drops of sweat. He looked at Arjuna and, with tears in his eyes, he spoke. I am frightened at the sight of this army. It is immense. Looking at the Kaurava heroes, my courage has oozed out. They are all invincible, I can see that. How can I, single-handed, fight these great people? Indra himself will be frightened of this dreadful army. They are all past masters in the art of fighting. How can I fight with them? My body burns and I feel faint. My father, in his fight with the Trigartas, has taken away all the army. I am left alone. I am just a young boy. How can I fight with the Kauravas? Please turn the chariot back. If I look at this army for a moment more, I am sure to faint. Please take me back to the city. I am not going to fight. My mind is made up. Arjuna laughed at him and said, You are frightened of the enemies? You are asking me to turn back? But a few moments back you said, Take me quickly to the battlefield. My dear prince, I tell you, do not be afraid of these Kauravas. They are not so powerful as they appear. You can easily defeat them. I will guide your chariot through their ranks easily. You are the son of a warrior. You are the nephew of Kichaka, who was a very great man. He was the commander of your army. You must have some of his bravery in you. You must not lose heart so easily. Any number of difficulties may confront you, but if you tackle them one by one, you will find that they are not so formidable after all. I will lead you through the enemy ranks. Take heart. This will bring you lasting fame. Remember what you said in the presence of your sister and the other women in the palace of your father? You left the city with such pomp, and now if you return like this from the battlefield, they will be ashamed of you. You are not going back. You are going to fight. I will not let you go back. Everyone will laugh at you and your cowardice if you go back now. I was mistaken in you. Because Sairandri was for my coming with you, and because I was charmed by your brave words, I came out with you. Why are you afraid of this army? Even I, who is supposed to be afraid because of my sex, even I am not scared. Why should you be? Please do not bring shame on the family of the Matsyas by turning your back on the fight. Come, let us go. Be brave and you will surely be able to defeat the Kauravas. Uttarakumara would not listen. He said, I do not care. Brahmanala, you cannot understand my feelings. Let them take away all our things, our cattle, our wealth. Let the world laugh at me, I do not care. Let the Kauravas keep all our cows, they are welcome to it. As for me, I am going to return. I am not going to listen to you. I am going back to the city. Uttarakumara jumped from the chariot and began to run in the direction of the city. Arjuna was very angry with him. He said, "This does not become a prince. You are a Kshatriya. Please do not bring disgrace to your race. Death on the battlefield is better than this fight. Death on the battlefield is better than this flight." Arjuna's words fell on deaf ears. Uttarakumara was running as fast as he could. Arjuna jumped down from the chariot. With his red mantle and his long hair flying in the breeze, he ran behind the runaway boy. The earth resounded with his fast and firm steps. They had come very near the field when all this took place. They could be seen by the enemies. The soldiers and the others too were looking at everything that was happening. They saw a lonely chariot first coming from the city. They saw a young man run away from the fight and a strangely attired person pursuing him. They saw the entire drama as they would a dumb show. Their interest was now aroused. The soldiers spoke among themselves. "Who is this young boy who jumped out of the chariot and ran away? Who is this other person whose attire is so fantastic?" They were still watching. The attention of Drona was caught now. He said, "He is dressed like a woman, but he is a man. The boy is running away because he is scared. I can see that. The person who is following him seems to be trying to force him to come back and fight. He is dressed like a woman. But wait a moment. His figure is familiar to me. I have it. It is very much like Arjuna. It is the same head and the same neck. I can recognize it even from here, from this distance. Those beautiful arms can belong to no one else. I know them. Look at those wide shoulders and that broad chest. It is Arjuna and no one else. It can only be Arjuna who has the courage to face our army alone." Radeya was listening to the words of Drona. He said, "In the city of Virata, all the soldiers had to go with the king to fight with our Susharma. Only this son of the king had been left behind. He was desperate. He must have caught hold of a eunuch to drive his chariot and come to the battlefront. Admirably, so far. They came up to the edge of the army. Looking at it, the poor child has lost his nerve. Evidently. I do not blame him. He has jumped out of the chariot and he is running away as fast as he can. The charioteer is even more nervous. He is running after the boy faster too, since he does not want to be left alone. That is what is happening there. I do not see why the name of Arjuna should be brought up now." Kripa said, "Drona is right. It is Arjuna. He is pursuing the boy. He will bring him back. He is planning to make that boy his charioteer, and he is going to be the fighter. I can guess that much from the actions of the two." Duryodhana was now irritated by this talk. He said, "Let him be Arjuna. Let him be Krishna. Let him be Bhargava himself. It does not matter. None of them will be able to face us now. Even if it is anyone else in the form of a woman, I will fell him with my sharp arrows if he dares to fight with me." While this talk was going on, Arjuna was running after Uttarakumara. He came up with him and caught him by the hair. All the appeals of the prince were of no avail. Arjuna would not let him go. He dragged him to the chariot and said, "You must not run away. I will not let you go. If you are afraid to fight, become my charioteer. Sit in my place and take the reins. I will do the fighting. You can depend on me. I will take care of you. Nothing can harm you as long as I am here. You are a Kshatriya. Remember that. You must not run away from the battlefield." Arjuna made the young prince get rid of his fear to some extent. He made him take up the reins and himself sat inside the chariot. Arjuna wanted his Gandiva and his quivers. He made Uttarakumara turn the chariot in the direction of the Sami tree where they had placed their weapons. Evil omens were seen in the Kaurava army, omens which spelt defeat for them. Drona spoke to Bhishma. My lord, I am sure it is Arjuna there in the chariot. He spoke these words in code. He regretted his impulsive declaration that it was Arjuna. He did not want Arjuna to be recognized by the others. He did not want the discovery to be premature. He therefore spoke to Bhishma in code. In the same code, Bhishma replied, I say what you mean. I can assure you, you need not be worried. The time limit which we were talking about in the court the other day has been passed. You need not be nervous anymore. The Pandavas are safe. I knew it even then in the court when we were discussing it. I did not want to volunteer the information. I want Duryodhana to learn a lesson. He may realize that the Pandavas are not easy opponents. This lesson may prove to be beneficial to him and avert the greater tragedy that threatens to come. With great relief surging in his heart, Drona openly said, Duryodhana, I am sure I am seeing Arjuna and no one else. He has disguised himself, but I can recognize him. It is Arjuna the archer who has no equal in this wide world. I have seen my Arjuna after 13 years. Tears blinded the old man as he looked and looked at his beloved pupil. He kept on talking about Arjuna and his prowess. He roused the anger of Radeya. Radeya said, You are always praising Arjuna and singing about his glory. Arjuna is not 1/16th as wonderful as our king or myself. Duryodhana said, If this Arjuna, our purpose is served. If this is Arjuna, our purpose is served. We can send the Pandavas back to the forest for a further period of 12 years. If this is a god in the form of a eunuch, I will fell him with my arrows. Bhishma, Drona, Kripa and Ashwatthama appreciated these brave and fearless words of the king. Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 16 of Virata Parva, the Sami tree. Arjuna, in the meantime, had reached the Sami tree. He saw that the poor prince was too delicate and nervous to fight. He looked kindly at him and said, I want you to get up this tree. On the tree is placed a mighty bow called the Gandiva. The bow which I have now is not powerful enough. These weapons you have brought are too delicate for the fight which I have ahead of me. You must, therefore, get up on this tree and get for me the weapons of the great Pandavas, which have been kept there. Make haste. Get up on the tree. The prince looked up at the tree and said, I can see nothing but a corpse hanging from the topmost branch. You know that I am a Kshatriya. How can I touch the corpse? Brahmanale, please do not make me do these things. I must not touch a corpse. It is not good for me. Arjuna laughed at him and said, I know that you are a Kshatriya. You belong to a great house. I will not insult your birth. Do not be afraid. It is not a corpse. The weapons of the Pandavas are placed inside the bundle that looks like a corpse. I know it. Please bring it down from the tree. Uttarakumara got up on the tree and cut the rope which was holding the bundle to the branch of the tree. He came down. As directed by Arjuna, he unwrapped the bundle. Amazement spread over his features. He saw the weapons of the Pandavas. He thought that 1,000 rainbows were there before his eyes. So wonderful was the glow that was coming from them. Uttarakumara looked at Arjuna. He saw tears were flowing from his eyes. He could not share the feelings which choked Arjuna. Looking at the wonderful weapons, Uttarakumara was overcome with a terrible fear and trembling. He was afraid even to look at them. Finally, he plucked up enough courage to look at Arjuna and talk to him. He said, Brahannale, is this a bow or is it a live serpent? These arrows glow like the sun and fire. I have never seen weapons like these before. They are beautiful. Will you tell me who owns these? Please enlighten me. Arjuna had now composed himself. He said, The bow which you first touched belongs to Arjuna. It is famed the world over by the name Gandiva. It is the only bow of its kind in the world. It brings lasting fame to the person who possesses it. It first belonged to Brahma for 1,000 years. It was then with Indra for 5,000 years. The moon had it with him afterwards for a long time. After that, Varuna, the lord of the oceans, had it with him. Agni, the god of fire, got it from Varuna and gave it to Arjuna when he burned the Khandava forest. It has been with Arjuna all these years. This other bow, decorated with gold and blue stones, belongs to Bhima. This is the bow which conquered all his enemies during the great Rajasuya. This other bow, which is red because of the glow of gold and the many rubies it set in it, belongs to Nakala, the son of Madri. This bow, set with emeralds and gold, belongs to Sahadeva. This graceful bow, with the little golden bell tinkling in the breeze, this bow belongs to Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava. Look at these arrows. They belong to the Pandavas. You can see that they all bear monograms. This is the quiver of Arjuna, and this is the other one given to him along with the Gandiva. They are never empty. These are all the weapons of the Pandavas. They were left here by them when they went out on their 13th year of exile, the year of hiding. Uttarakumara looked at the weapons for a long time with wide open eyes. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, Leaving their dear weapons, where have the Pandavas gone? We heard that they left the Kamyaka and Dvaitavana after having spent 12 years there. They have not been seen anywhere since then. They have not been heard of after that. Where are they? Can you tell me where they are now? Arjuna smiled a sweet smile and said, Listen to me, Uttarakumara. The Pandavas are all in Virata. He smiled again at the look of sheer amazement that spread over the face of Uttarakumara. He said, I am Arjuna. Kanka, the companion of your father, is Yudhishthira. Your cook, Valala, is Bhima. Dhamagranthi, who is in charge of your horses, is Nakula, and your cowherd, Tantripala, is Sahadeva. Sairandri, who was the cause of Kichaka's death, is Draupadi. Uttarakumara took some time to digest this piece of news. He said, Tell me your 10 names and tell me why you got those names. Arjuna said, My 10 names are Arjuna, Falguna, Jishnu, Kiriti, Shvetavahana, Bibhatsu, Vijaya, Partha, Savyasachi and Dhananjaya. I was called Dhananjaya when I conquered all the kings during the Rajasuya and collected wealth from all of them. I always fight to a finish and I never return without winning, and so I am called Vijaya. My horses, which were given to me by Agni, are white, and so I am called Shvetavahana. My father Indra gave me a beautiful crown when I was with him. That is why I am called Kiriti. I have never fought by unfair means in any battle. They therefore call me Bibhatsu. I never frighten my enemies by meanness. I can use both my hands when I send the arrows. That is why I am called Savyasachi. My complexion is unique like the tree Arjuna. My name is also stainless, hence I am called Arjuna. I was born on the slopes of the I was born on the slopes of the Himavan in a place called Satashringha on a day when the star Uttara Palguna was in the ascent. That has given me the name Palguna. I am called Jishnu because of the fact that I will be terrible when I am angry. I have taken an oath that I will destroy the person who hurts my brother Yudhishthira and spills his blood on the earth. He will be destroyed and his kinsmen too. I cannot be vanquished by anyone. My mother is called Pritha. As her son, I am Partha. You have heard my names. I am here to fight for you and to rescue your cows. Come and see me fight. You need no fear of the Kauravas when I have taken up your cause. The young the young prince, was almost faint with the fear in his heart. He thought of the many indignities the Pandavas have suffered in Virata. He felt terribly sorry and ashamed of himself and his father. He fell at the feet of Arjuna and said, I am announcing myself. I am Bhuminjaya or Uttarakumara. I am the son of the king of Virata. I am fortunate to be the first person to meet the great Arjuna after the Ajnatavasa of the Pandavas. I am sorry about the fact that you have heroes. I am sorry about the fact that you heroes had to do menial service in our city. We must have offended you in 1,000 ways. On behalf of my father and all the people of the court, I ask you to pardon us for all the insults which must have been showered on you all. You are noble. You must be kind to us and protect us. Please be good to us. His tears ran incessantly. Arjuna raised him up from the ground. He embraced him. He wiped the boy's tears away and comforted him. He said, Come, it is getting late. Do not feel so bad. We have been very happy in Virata. We are not in the least angry with you or your father. But there is now no time for talk. Let us hurry towards the enemy army. Be my charioteer, Uttarakumara. I will fight with them. My hands are itching for the feel of the Gandiva. You will see some fun. Do not be afraid anymore. Uttarakumara smiled bravely and said, From today, I will never be frightened anymore. My fear has vanished like snow at the sight of the sun. He sat in the chariot after helping Arjuna into it. Arjuna saluted the Gandiva and took it up in his mighty hands. The chariot turned towards the enemy camp once again. Shri Guru Sarvabhauma Raghavendra Sarvabhauma ki jai. Shri Krishnarpanastu.